Hey, converted man here. Okay, so S.J. Thomason on Twitter, S.J. Thomason on the YouTubes. I can't just let it go. I've tried. She just keeps reeling me back in. I'm pretty sure I've responded to a list like this before, but she's claiming that nobody has answered these questions. Even though they've all been addressed. They've all been answered. She doesn't like the answers. So, whatever. Here I go again. Now she has like commentary on the questions. So, that's interesting. But I'm just going to go over the questions and answer them. And then I'll comment on the commentary if I feel like it. Okay, so before I even start, though, it is easy to make a question that somebody can't plausibly answer or possibly answer. You know, there are questions that can be formulated that no one can answer. You know, how many angels are able to dance on the head of a pit? An infinite number? Is it even? Is it, you know, what is God made out of? Well, God's made out of what? Is it made out of anything? Is it not made of anything? How does that work? Where and when is God located? Beyond space-time? That seems like a square circle. It doesn't seem that you would have anywhere or when to be if there's no space or time for you to exist in. So these sort of things are easy to set up. You know, when did you last stop beating your wife? That's a loaded question. You can't answer it directly because of the nature of the question. And it's also the case that even if somebody cannot answer a question, that doesn't make you right. The answer might be, I don't know. Then what? That's it. That's the answer. Oh, I don't know. Well, that means I'm right? No, that's not how it works. So I could have, you know, a million questions that theists couldn't answer or couldn't plausibly answer, whatever that means. It doesn't matter. It's not an argument. Okay. Now, let's go over the questions. Number one, what explains our objective morality? Remember I said loaded questions? This is a loaded question. The question preassumes that there is objective morality. How do I know if there is or is not objective morality? Any answer I give to this question is agreeing, tentatively speaking, with the presumption that there is objective morality. Nothing explains objective morality if it doesn't exist. So I can't answer this question. So first you would have to demonstrate that objective morality exists. Also, I think you would have to tell me what ethical framework that morality is based upon, because that ethical framework would also have to be objective. And this would mean it would be verifiable, it would be testable, it would be something concrete, something that could be demonstrated to be true at all points, no matter what. So you haven't done that. So the answer is that this question is loaded. But she wants an answer even though the question is loaded. Okay, I'll rephrase the question because it's the only way to address a loaded question. Do we have objective morality? I don't know. I think it depends on how you view morality. If morality, without talking about ethics, is always to me weird, because ethics is the framework that you build morality upon. So what is objective morals? You're basically asking what makes something good or bad to do. How do we decide if this action is good or bad? Now, in divine command theory, DCT, whatever God says to do, that's good, because you are assuming that God's good, or God knows more, or the power of God, whatever. It's an ultimate appeal to authority. It's the ultimate authority, supposedly. God said to do it, so you do it. End of story. It must be good because God said it. Or is it good because it is good without God? Oh, that darn Euthropia. Euthroper? However you say his name. Euthapa. His dilemma. Is it good because it's God saying it? Or is it good because it's good? Or is there a different way to evaluate it's good? Of course, you could pre-assume a evil God and think that everything that that evil God orders you to do is evil, even if it seems good. Hey, help that person across the street, but that doesn't seem evil. Evil God, why would you tell me? Just do it. Trust me, it's evil in the long run. And the same goes for a supposed loving God. Let that person die. Why? In fact, no, forget that. Go kill them. Wait a minute. What? No, trust me. I'm loving. It will make sense later. I've got a plan. So, do we have objective morals? You have to provide the foundation to show that objective morals are there. That's your burden of proof, not mine. What does my opinion have to do with your burden of proof? Another way to look at it is that morals are objective in the sense that they aim towards a particular ethic, a particular goal within ethics. There's different ethical systems. If I'm using the ethical system where I'm the only thing that matters, then my morals are going to be attuned to caring about myself above anyone else. So I make sure I get enough food to eat. Then maybe I'll make sure you get enough food to eat, but I have to come first. And you might object to that, but hey, it's my ethics. So I'm just doing what is objectively correct given my ethical system. You could look at it that way. But it doesn't matter because you haven't shown that we have objective morality. So this question is loaded. Can't explain something when you haven't demonstrated that it's a thing. And even if we accepted tentatively that it was a thing, not being able to explain it wouldn't mean anything. So I guess you're right. Yeah, nobody can plausibly answer a loaded question. Number 2, if an atheist position is, oh, by the way, if you want I'll link to the website and everything. Hey, Rand. Yeah, that's all right. Have fun at work. Number 2, if an atheist position is that the universe is the product of chance and necessity instead of the product of intelligence, how can he or she explain the fact the universe is structured rationally, logically, and with mathematical precision and predictability? Wow, that's a lot of questions to frame within a question. I mean, it's kind of a clunky question. So, is your position that the universe is a product of chance and necessity? That would be a better question. I don't know. Would be my answer. I don't know how. That's not my area. That's cosmology. Ask some scientists because they can explain how it works. If that's what the data says, that the universe is a product of chance and necessity, then that's what the data says, and I'm not going to argue with the data on the issue. I'm going to accept whatever data we can figure out because that's the best that we can do for now, and it might change, and I'll accept that as well. So I don't know the ins and outs of that, but let's say that I did have that assumption. How do you explain the universe is structured? Well, why would you have to explain anything? This kind of assumes that you need an explanation of the data, which may or may not be present. It's like, well, why is gravity a thing? I don't know. There might not be a why answer. In fact, the why question might be incoherent completely because it assumes agency. How is gravity there? Or how does gravity we can know some things about gravity. We can't know all things about it, but we can explain how it works. We might not be able to explain why it's there, other than it's mass makes gravity. Well, but why does mass make gravity? Who knows? So not having an answer to that question within science isn't an atheist position. That's the scientific position of, well, we don't know. We don't have the data on that. We don't. Maybe that's a question we cannot answer right now, or maybe it's a question that we can never answer because of the way it's framed. So that's it. But that's not necessarily an atheist position. Again, the atheist might not know anything about how the universe works because it's simply not their field. It's not something that they know anything about. Then, if you do accept that the universe is a product of chance and necessity based on the data, well, how do you explain that it's structured rationally? Well, is the universe structured rationally? Where's your proof to show that the universe is structured rationally? What do you mean by the idea of the universe being structured rationally? This is your burden of proof, not mine. I'm not making a claim necessarily that the universe is structured rationally. Maybe it's irrational. I don't know. But you haven't produced any proof of your claims. It's not my burden of proof, it's yours. And if you're assuming that this is a position that I am taking or that I must take, then all you're doing is straw manning me by asking this question, which is already loaded and malformed. But if it's structured rationally, the answer might be that that's just the way it is. That there isn't really any other explanation other than just the brute fact of this is what we observe and that's how it is. Well, but how does it work? How? That's it. There's a rock in the middle of nowhere, standing upright, and well, how? How is it there? Why is it there? What's going on with that rock? How did it get there? Doesn't seem to be any other rocks like it anywhere around. You could ask all sorts of questions. You might be able to answer some of them, but maybe you have a mystery. What does that mean? Doesn't mean anything. It just means you don't know. It's like, oh, well, you can't explain that. Okay, and so? Is the universe constructed logically? I'm not sure what that means in this context. Do you, again, but rationally and logically would both kind of be in the same realm. So with mathematical precision, what do you mean by that? Show that that's a thing. And predictability, is the universe predictable, or are only some events predictable? What do you mean by predictability here? These are all burdens that you hold, but you want to shift to the atheist by asking this question. But if I go ahead and allow this question anyways and answer it, the answer would be, that's how things work. Simple enough. The answer is, well, how does the universe work? Well, let's say gravity. That's a big part of it. It's like, but how gravity? Mass. Well, how mass? I don't know. More gravity. I don't know. At some point, you're going to get to, I don't know. Then what? Well, you didn't plausibly answer the question, so that means I win? No. It doesn't mean anything. So the answer is, that's how things are. That's the way it is. If I said, what explains God having a mind without having a brain, your only possible answer would be, that's just how God is. It's just how it works, supposedly, right? Now, you can't necessarily demonstrate that that's how God is, but at least I have a universe to point to and say, well, that's what we observe and that's what we know right now. More than that, don't know yet. Maybe one day we'll figure it out, but that day isn't today. Tomorrow isn't looking so good either. So I guess, yeah, because you've loaded the question so much and malformed it, yeah, I guess nobody can answer that question. I've noticed a trend here. Number 3, if atheists adhere to the belief that the purpose of human life is merely to procreate and survive, okay, well, Is it possible to determine that human life has any more value than animal life since animals share the same basic purpose? Well, humans are animals. First of all, let's just make sure that you're on the same page with reality. Humans are animals. I'll say it one more time just in case it doesn't penetrate your thick skull. Humans are animals. We are animals. We're not different than them. We are them. We are not a separate thing. We are animals. Okay. Now, is the purpose of human life merely to procreate? Well, the purpose of life, essentially, is to proliferate or procreate. And it's not even really the purpose in that sense. Because purpose, again, assumes like intentionality. Life doesn't know that it is creating more life or more of itself. It doesn't know that death is bad. It just is surviving. And if it was not geared towards surviving and making more of itself, then it doesn't last and it dies and that's it. So the life that that does things that will help it stay alive and help it make more of itself stays around, and the life that doesn't do that doesn't stay alive. So that's kind of in that sense, because life is trying to keep going, that it then makes the goal to keep going, to proliferate, to procreate, to split, to do something to carry on the goal of consuming energy, which is what all life must do, is consume energy in some way. And then it consumes that energy so it can make life, so that that life can consume energy and make life. Well, why? It's just that's how it works. That's what the system is. And objectively speaking, that's what life is survival of your, from the very smallest cell, to more and more complex things built upon that cell. The goal is continued survival and continue existence. And anything that doesn't meet that goal fizzles out and expires and vanishes into the abyss. Are we more valuable than animal life? Well, it depends if you are pretending that humans aren't animals. Is this type of human animal? Is this animal more important than that animal? I guess that should be the way to frame that question. Well, to us, it is usually, not always. I've read people saying that, if you kill my dog, I'll kill you, and it's like, oh, that person, ran over that person's cat or whatever, and they deserve to get beat up or what have you. So there are certainly people that value other animal life greater than this animal life, or at least say that they do. So for those people, they don't value this animal life more than that. But why do we tend to, collectively speaking, broadly speaking, why do humans value other humans? Because we're human and it's tribal. And it allows for the tribe to survive. It allows for more survival to happen because that's wired into everything that we are, not just our brains, but like the cells that make our brains and the cells that make all the rest of us. Everything is geared to survive. So anything that helps us do that, we're going to tend to want to do. And so the animal of human will tend to want to help other animal humans survive so that we can continue this grand play of life. Anything more than that is completely subjective. If you want a meaning to your life, you're going to have to make it yourself. If you want somebody to dictate what your life's meaning is, then there's plenty of religions to choose from, and plenty of scam artists out there, and people pretending to be gurus or whatever the belief, that are willing to tell you exactly what the point of your life is. And if you want your life to be run by a different human, okay, great. I could be that human. I'll tell you what to do or not to do if that helps. Does your life have more value than a different animal life? I don't know. Depends on how much I like you and how much I like that other animal, probably. So that I guess that would be the answer. Is it possible to determine that one has more value than the other? No, there isn't a value. There is no values. That's arbitrary. We personally would value based on survival. Okay. But of course, and again, it's weird that you would just kind of like, well, the only point of life is procreate and survive. It's not just human life, by the way. It's all life. That's like what it's doing. That's what it's doing. But purpose, I don't like that terminology. So there's that question. Number 4. Why have so many atheists determined that the life of a fetus in a mother's womb is less valuable than the life of his or her mother? Age discrimination? ? When is a human considered a human to them? Well, I don't know that atheists have determined the life of a fetus to be worth more than the mother. So show me that this is the case. How many agree to this proposition? Do you have data on this? Do you have like something that proves you're sure? No, of course you don't have anything for this. This is a loaded question where you assume that atheists do this. You have no proof, no evidence, no data, no citation at all to show that X amount of atheists have said or agree with the idea that the life of a fetus is more than the life of the mother bearing that fetus. Age discrimination is completely incoherent. Well, no, if the fetus was 12 years old, then at that point, I guess we that can live. I think that would kill somebody if a fetus was in there. If the baby it kept being in there and growing. Pretty sure the mother would die at some point. But what makes the mother's life less important than the fetus? The other way could be asked as well. Or are they both equally important? But then here's the dilemma there. Let's say that they're both equally important and only one can survive. The other one must die. What do you do then? Flip a coin? How do you decide that? Well, what's the Bible say about it? So I guess this is a poke at like abortion or something. I don't know. When is a human considered a human to them? Whenever it meets the criteria of what human is defined by within science, whatever that is. So whatever that would be, go look that up. Would be my answer. I'm not going to look it up for you because you're not providing anything for me to prove your points. So I don't feel like doing it for you. But yeah, and again, I guess this is just poking at abortion. So for more on abortion, look at my video, Ethics in Abortion, where I cover all the ethical systems and explain how abortion might be viewed by each of them, which is interesting because you can be pro and against abortion basically based on every single one of those ethical systems, which I think means that this question might not have any clear-cut answer within meta-ethics. Whoops. Oh well. Let's see. Number 5. How can atheists explain the ordering of DNA? Ask scientists how that works. It assumes that DNA is ordered But this is I don't understand it. Must be God. I don't. How can you possibly explain this? Magic. There you go. There's an answer. It's not a good answer, but it's basically your answer. The ordering of DNA, I don't know that DNA is ordered or what you mean by that, but okay, it does what DNA does because that's what it does. It didn't start out that way. See, the product that you're looking at today is not where it started from. That product looks way different and way less complex than the product of today. So this is a typical creationist sort of thing. It's like, but how do you explain this right now? Well, you're looking at the end result of millions of years of things that happened before that. You have to look at the first thing, and it's really just simple, chemicals attaching to each other and chilling out together. And you could say, well, why did those chemicals attach together? Because they could attach together. If they couldn't attach together, then they wouldn't. But they could, so they did. And sometimes those attachments to each other made other stuff possible. And sometimes it just did that, and that's it. It just did that, and that was the end of that story. So it gets more complex over time because of the necessity of it wanting to, or needing to, or however you want to put that, of continuing to exist. The driving force of all life and these sort of interactions is whatever survives mix more things that can survive and also mix some things that can't survive. And this is going to blow your mind. The things that can't survive don't. And the things that can continue to. So for the chemicals that could interact but didn't do anything, that's it. That was the end of their story. For the chemicals that couldn't touch and just went away, that's the end of their story. But for the chemical that could interact and do something extra, now they have a new story to tell. And then they grab a different chemical, and then that grabs a different chemical, and then, it goes on and on and on. So this is just you not understanding anything about biology or evolution or anything and being like, but how can you go learn science is my answer. Number 6. How can atheists explain the force of power of the Big Bang of the universe? This assumes that there was a power of the Big Bang of the universe. This assumes that atheists have to explain anything about that. That's ask a cosmologist to explain it to you. Listen to some cosmologist explanations. Neil deGrasse Tyson has a number of explanations about this, and so do others. So go find out from them. Learn something. So the universe is expanding into itself because that's all there is the universe. There is no, that's just what it's called. So space is just infinitely expanding, and maybe it's always been that way. Maybe it started at some point. I don't know. But that expansion apparently is able to take the little tiny, the dot of whatever that was there. Maybe it was just the fabric of reality continuing to stretch, and that the effect of the stretching of reality is what creates the universe that we call the universe, rather than the whole universe, or however you want to label that. And then so it's just that's the nature of reality. How do you explain the nature of reality? That it just is. It's a question that people don't have the answer to. But to assert God is no answer at all. You're just moving. You're just now you have all sorts of questions to try to answer about God. But you also have the question of how you know it's a God. Well, because I don't understand how the universe came to be other than God, because I have to believe in God. If you're a theist, you have your mind made up. You can't ever not believe in God, or you stop being a theist. It's kind of weird how that works. Once you go, well, wait a minute, I don't have any proof or evidence or anything for this God. I better stop believing. Well, now what? How do I explain this? And you realize I might not be able to explain it. Humans might not be able to explain it. We might never be able to explain it. And you're sitting there and you go, oh man, now what? Learn to love the mystery. Learn to love the mystery. Maybe you could learn science. Maybe you could be the one to find the answer rather than just go, I don't know. So how do we explain it? We don't necessarily have an explanation. And so what? Don't know. Number 7. How can atheists explain our desire for heavenly joy? What the hell is heavenly joy? I don't know what heavenly joy is. I don't recognize that as an emotion. Therefore, I don't have any desire for it. Therefore, there is nothing to explain because I don't have it. Maybe next time outline what heavenly joy is, and also explain how many humans have a desire for it and how you know how many humans have a desire for it, because this question is loaded. So it's unanswerable. There's no data to show that any of these ideas are true. So I don't know that anybody has a desire for heavenly joy because I don't know that heavenly joy is a thing that you can desire. But I'll tell you this, we have emotions because of chemicals that are in our brain. That's how that works. Number 8, what's the best explanation for the minimal facts surrounding Jesus' resurrection? It's a story that somebody wrote. The end. That's it. It's made up. It's a made up story. It's fiction. It's mythology. It's not true. It never really happened. Somebody wrote it. Other people believed it. That's it. That's the explanation. It's not true. There is no facts about Jesus's anything because none of it is factual. It's made up, full cloth, in whole. End of story. That's the answer. It's just a made up story. How do you explain that the lobsteress gets the age of the universe right? In the lobsteress, it says, 13 billion years ago. It says it in the lobsteress. How could that possibly get right? And it talks about the giant claws, the pinchers that pinched the universe to start everything. How could you explain that? Well, why would you? You would have to assume that the lobsteress is true, coherent, or accurate at all, which hasn't been demonstrated. So you don't have to explain anything about it. Just like I don't have to explain anything about anything that the Bible says because you haven't demonstrated that any of that actually is a thing. Oh, but all the scholars, I don't care. That's not proof. You have to show that it happened. We can't do that. But we do know that people don't come back to life once they're dead. They stay dead. Now, there have been cases where people have died and not been dead, but that's just us not knowing how to define death. And there's debate about, it's pretty much, I think the agreement has gone to that when your brain activity stops and your heart activity stops, then you're dead. But maybe it has to stop for a certain amount of time. But we just don't have any example of anybody coming back from that state. So, because we don't have an example today, there's no reason to think that it could have happened ever. Because that's just not how biology functions. Unless, I don't know, maybe Jesus was the world's first Wolverine mutant and had regeneration powers. That's it. There's your 8 questions answered there, SJ. So it's been answered. Most of them are loaded. Actually, almost all of them are loaded, malformed, and or simply incoherent. They all appeal to ignorance. They all attempt to shift the burden of proof. And I don't know what the point of any of this was. There's plenty of questions I could ask you that you don't know the answer to, that you couldn't know the answer to, that we'll never know the answer to. But now here's the interesting but. God, if it knows everything, could answer all these sort of questions and yet is silent on the issue. God could clarify the matter. Now, I asked you, SJ, at one point about does God change? And you said that God didn't change. And I referenced a test between Yahweh and Baal that happens in the Old Testament. And I said, could that test be done again today? And you're like, well, maybe. It's like you're not even confident enough to say yes or no to that. And here's the thing. If we set up the test and nothing happens, let's set up 2 altars just like they did in the Old Testament, because God doesn't change, and one group, I'll be part of the group that prays to Baal. I don't care. And then you can get as many Christians, hell, get the entire world to do it. It doesn't matter, to pray that, God will light this on fire, this altar. And nothing will happen. Unless a human intervenes and does it, it won't happen. Well, maybe if we wait long enough, a lightning bolt will eventually hit it and it will catch on fire. So we're going to have to do it, where there's a roof on top so that no lightning bolt can hit it, because we want to negate that as being a thing, because we know that can happen, and some idiot will be like, oh, look, lightning bolt, that means God. No, okay, well, let's do it again. That's why it has to be a repeatable test. And if God never changes, then we can do the test again. And God should be fine with it. But here's the thing. No Christian has ever done this test. Why? Because maybe and I don't want to try to mind read here, but I would strongly suspect that Christians would object to the idea of God being tested and try to run away from this test, because here's the thing. If you perform the test and nothing happens, which is what would happen, then that means God failed the test, which means there isn't a God, which would then challenge your belief in God, which would mean you would have to stop believing in God. And that idea causes cognitive dissonance. And you slam up against it in your brain that's figuring out, wait a minute, I recognize that this won't happen. I've told theists, have my computer laptop, have my screen levitate into the air. That will convince me there's a God. Here, do it right now. Have this cup just start levitating. Nothing happens. You could pray for it for the rest of your life and have every human pray for it. It won't happen. God seems only to be able to answer prayers or respond in the exact way that nature itself responds. God is not testable. God is not verifiable. God is a meme. It is a construct of the human brain that we developed accidentally or deliberately at some point, or a combination thereof, and that we have fostered as a meme throughout time. And the memes that survive do so by mutating. The idea of God changes over time. And the Judeo-Christian God, Yahweh, has changed over time. In fact, even just looking at the Bible with a critical perspective, you can see that God changes in the Bible. It starts out as a God that doesn't really know anything and can't do very many things, or can do some things but not others. And then it changes from a God that has a physical presence that can interact with humans, to a God that's on a mountain, to a God that's in the air, to then a God that has human form. It constantly evolves. And Yahweh, it comes from a series of other gods that were around with these other pagan gods. Now, they're all called pagan gods still. And Yahweh was one of them. And he and his wife Ashtaroth hung out in that belief system for a while. But some guy, maybe his name was Abraham, maybe not, who knows, decided, that's my God, and I'm going to make that one be cool. And he started the trend of only worshiping Yahweh and not the other ones. And Ashtaroth was forgotten by him or ignored by him or whatever. And then throughout time, that story became more complex, and thus the idea of what God is became more complex. But that would be admitting to how reality actually works. And we can't do that if we're an apologist, because we have to assert that it has to be God. And we do that because, well, if we don't do that, then we're not a believer in that meme, and that hurts our brain. And when you begin to recognize that, you run to apologetics to try to save you. And the only way that it can is to not know logic. Because every apologetic argument has one or more logical fallacies. Now, maybe you're saying, but Deacon Ritterman, you haven't seen all of them. I've seen a great deal of them. But I'm pretty confident that logic cannot argue for something that isn't ultimately true and be valid and sound. Although I'm a little bit hesitant on that. So if somebody did come up with a valid and sound argument for God, I'd still look and then I'd investigate it to see that it was. And I should find out that it's true, but it could be that I simply analyze the argument incorrectly and it doesn't turn out to be true. But I've never gotten that argument anyways. But what's weird is God doesn't have any empirical or repeatable anything to it. You can't, like, hey, look, it's a blue freaking sheep that's stuffed from Minecraft. Why can't we just point to a thing and say, that's God right there? Well, because God is there in the brain. That's the best explanation for what God is. And every and all questions about the universe can be answered by science. No question can be answered by a theology. Okay, now let's turn to the chat room, so you can end this now if you don't care about me talking to the chat room people, because I have some chats that I want to respond to. Hi, WildHeart666. Let's see, apes. Yes, we're an ape. Let's see. Abortion question. Haven't heard about bodily autonomy. It's not about being less valuable. Yeah, well, abortion is a whole nother red herring. I mean, completely and totally off topic from atheism, I would think. But like I said, I did a video on ethics and abortion where I go over and I'll link that in the video description if you haven't watched that already, or maybe you don't remember what I said. And there's a couple of ethical systems, honestly, that I don't understand. And I said that in the video. I was like, I don't know how to make sense of this one, so you figure it out. Abortion is sadly a thing that we have to contend with in our society. I think that if you are against abortion, then what you should do is demonstrate that you actually are against abortion, not by demonstrating and going, oh, no to this, but by actually doing things that could negate people having kids in the first place. Contraceptives, hand those out. Make sure that people have access to them everywhere they go. Make sure that they're reliable and effective. Promote and endorse and pay money to science that is developing contraceptives, look into gene research. Maybe we could find a biomechanical way to turn off and on our reproduction system. Wouldn't that be great? Like, imagine if there was a switch that I could press, beep, and now I can't have kids. Beep, oh, now I can. But it wouldn't be on my nose because that would be a silly place to put it. But it might not even be like an actual button. Maybe it's just some code that I read in my head or something, or something I have to look at, and then when my brain sees it, it knows to release these chemicals that then make it that I can have a kid again or whatever. Or maybe it's pills, or I don't know, but something. But see, the thing is, the theists are like, no, science bad. We can't genetically alter how humans work. Like, you could just, build humans with genetics that don't reproduce unless given a certain enzyme or something. Man, I'm starting to think of Jurassic Park now. just because we can do it doesn't mean that we should. Yes, we should do it. Do it. I don't care what the I want glowing humans. I want to glow. If I don't glow in the dark, I don't. Okay, anyways. Spooky Bed Hair. Hi. Let's see. She has the Bible verse. Yep. Poke at abortion. Let's see. Abortion. She tells us it would be good. Whoa. In a casino, if her dice are as loaded as her question, just saying. Yeah, then she'd be kicked out rather quickly as well. 3 out of 10. Must do better. Yeah. How many questions are they able to answer? I don't know. Thou shalt not test God, right? And pretty much. Now, I don't know about other religions. I know a lot about Christianity because I was one. So it's just that's the one I know about. That's the one it's like I just don't have I don't have enough care to enable myself to investigate other religions. But I would dare say or assume that God can't be tested in those religions either. Cognitive dissonance, is that where keeps our species going? Is it only the religious that breed sufficiently? No. Okay, yeah. Cognitive dissonance is something that we all have or can have. It's not just a unique feature of theology. Okay, so don't get me wrong about that. If whatever I said at this point sounded like I was saying that, no. You got to be careful. That's why it's great to be a skeptic, because you go, wait a minute. Is this idea just because I like this idea and that's why I want to hold on to it? It's like, oh, Trump is racist. Well, wait a minute. Let me ask some questions. What do you mean by that? Like, what does it mean to be racist? Like, you would need to ask yourself that question. What does it mean to be a racist? Is saying nigger, does that make am I now a racist? How long does that last? Do I say unnigger to become an unracist? How do I stop being, these kind of critical questions? And you go, well, okay, Trump did this thing that I consider racist. Does that make him racist, or is the thing that he did racist? Now you're asking questions of yourself and you're challenging your beliefs. It's amazing how that works. So just as an example. Lucifer Almighty, these questions are ridiculous. Yeah. Minimal facts argument doesn't actually use facts, right? The so-called minimal facts argument already assumes that the Bible stories are true. Well, I on Twitter said, hey, J.J. Abrams called out Peter as Spider-Man on the television screens in New York City. Everyone could see that. Poor Peter Parker. How do you explain that? New York's a real place. Hundreds of people, 3 people saw him die, but a lot more people saw him back to life. How do you explain that? Unless Thanos really snapped his finger and the Hulk really snapped his finger. How can you explain that? Well, I'm assuming all the damn things actually happened in reality. Let's see. Let's see. Sorry. Yeah, and the Bible allows abortion under special conditions anyway, so it's fine in the Bible. So so what you gotta do is you go to the temple. I guess that would be the church nowadays. You sweep up whatever's on the floor, you put it in a bottle, and you mix it with something else. I don't remember what. And then the woman drinks it, and if she miscarries, then that's proof that she cheated on you and it wasn't the child. You are not the father. Or you could do a DNA test, but that's not what they did in the Bible because of the magic potion. But if she did not miscarry, then that meant it was your kid. Now, man, it would have been amazing to have been around in those times and had a situation where you had a very dark-skinned person and a light-skinned person get together and have a kid. and then that guy runs off, and the current husband is, pale skin, and he's like, hey, this dark skinned baby, I don't know that it's mine. Like, I guess that wouldn't work because she has to drink the thing before she has the baby. Ah, fuck. Damn it. I can't make fun of it the way I wanted to. Well, let's just pretend that I can anyway. So she takes the drink, and then the baby dies, because it shouldn't matter if it's already born, if it's a magical drink. Maybe you feed it to the baby. There you go. Now I'm thinking, haha, we feed it to the baby, and if the baby lives, it's his kid, and if it dies, it's her kid. Why couldn't God just explain to them how to do a genetic test? Wow, Anyway, so I finished. Is he high on sugar? Yes, I am. I'm going through the stat rather quickly. So many questions. Yes, and I got to the end. So, as always, we don't have any empirical evidence, repeatable test, or a valid and sound argument. So, we have to be skeptical of her conclusions. Oh, she has more on this page that I could respond to. Do I want to do that? I don't know. Do you guys and gals and robots want me to do that? You want me to keep going? You want me to rant more? Because I'll do it. I mean, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I don't have a life. Well, I guess I do have a life because I'm alive, but I mean, I don't have a social. This is all I'm doing. This is what I do. So tell me if you want me to keep going, or maybe you're busy. You're like, you know what, 50 minutes, that's long enough, Deconverted Man. Just end now. Just stop, shut up, and do something else. Rant free. Rant. Okay, you asked for it. Here we go. Why not? Here we go. Same page. Okay, so hey, those that stopped tuning in for me to talk to chat, come back and watch the video. Damn, somebody has to tag now it's up to you to tag the video timestamps of when I start talking to chat and when I stop talking to chat, so that the person that doesn't want to hear me talk to chat can just like skip. You do that and you're awesome. You might still be awesome even if you don't do that. So here's the thing that S.J. Thomason wanted to say about the question. Because, see, it doesn't really matter what the damn question is. That's not the point of her page. The point of her page is to help the Christian that's feeling that cognitive dissonance to feel okay about their belief, and to reaffirm it, and to reassert that it's okay to believe. It's okay. Just keep believing. Oh, okay. This is a question. How can the atheists explain this? Oh, they can't. God must be real. Yay, I feel good again. Okay, so number one, which explains our objective morality. Here's what SJ says. I wish I could do an imitation of her, but I can't. So I'm going to try anyways. Dan, if we... No, that's not how she said. Dan, if we... I can't do it. If we have... maybe I'll do it as Valley Girl. Fuck it. Like, if we have no God, then, like, we have no objective and transcendent moral values and duties. So, yet we do have objective moral standards and duties. So, like, God exists, right? No. You assume the damn conclusion already. So it's like, if this exists, then God, if lobsters exist, then God exists. Lobsters do exist, so God exists. If lobsters do not exist, I am not God. Lobsters do exist, therefore I am God. Ha ha! Learn logic! Okay, despite the culture or era, sane humans have an innate sense of what's right and wrong. Unless they're a sociopath, then they don't. Oh, right. We're going to ignore them, though. They don't... most humans, I mean... we prefer to do what's right and help our fellow humans, unless, of course, our religion tells us to kill them and dash them. Even the infants and women... Do not spare anyone. Dash the infants' skulls upon the rocks. Die, baby. Die. man, I wish I'd been around during that time. That would have been kind of cool in a way. Like don't just kill them. You're like a soldier. Like, okay, all right. Well, yeah, of course we're gonna kill the guys. Kill the women. Really? The women and the children. What? The babies. Yeah, smash the babies' heads against rocks. Cool. Smash, 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 smash. Wait, no, wait. Am I supposed to feel good or bad about this? I mean, God's telling me to do it, so it must be good. So I should feel good about it. So, evolutionary biologists have made the observations to posit that cooperative societies were better posed for survival over thousands of years in the distant past. Groups fared better than individuals. SJ, you have your answer. But I guess he's going to ignore the answer? Biology helps to explain in-group favoritism, but fails to explain out-group helping behaviors. What do you mean? We're helping other humans, right? So and morals are concerned largely with other humans. I mean, sometimes they affect other animals other than the human animal. But okay, what fails to demonstrate the superiority of cooperation and selfless behavior over competition. I guess he didn't read the selfish gene. Actually, evolution does explain that, but this is again, you can't explain it, therefore God. Oh! Appeal to ignorance, appeal to personal incredulity, and often selfish. Both cooperation and competition enhance our survival chances. So does sometimes being selfish. It depends. As an individual, stealing a loaf of bread to keep myself fed might be my best chance at survival. But if we, as a society, allow stealing of bread all the time, then there will not be bread to feed everybody. In fact, there might not be enough bread to feed everyone unless everyone cooperates to make bread. And so we want to reward people who make bread by giving them bread to eat. But not everybody wants to make bread. So maybe we have fewer people make bread and the other person has to do some other thing. And man, we all of a sudden we have society going on here, where I have to create a thing that I did for what you did, and then money comes along, and then things get really shitty after that. But whatever. Biochemist Cy Great. What the hell is that? I love that. Yeah, this is the thing that really just makes my brain hurt on SJ's thing. She'll cite somebody. She'll say a name. No little number, no little a thing I could just click or whatever. No, it's just, hey, this guy says this thing. Okay. Notes errors in trying to explain morality with evolution. Well, then I guess he's wrong. So there you go. When she states it's not about the diversity of life on Earth. What? Who cares? Who? So one biochemist says, well, there's some errors that you can't explain human morality with evolution. I guess he's wrong. What other biochemists have you got? Is this a consensus? Is this based on data? Is this based on evidence? Is this based on scientific studies? What you got, SJ? You got one guy? Wow. Anyways, but it doesn't stop biologists from making just so inductive propositions about the origins of empathy. That might be the answer. I know. But I don't like it. So you're going to take I don't like that evolution produces morals. So therefore, I'm going to say, well, God makes morals. See? And why God? Well, that's just so. So it's okay to be because just so when it's God, but it's not okay to be just so when it's evolution without God. You have to have God in there, otherwise it's not okay. I have not seen propositions on the survival value of other desirable human traits such as humanity, grateful, forgiveness. These would seem to diminish our survival possibilities. Okay, is SJ saying that she hasn't seen that, or that this biochemist has said that he hasn't seen that? I don't know, but even if you haven't seen it, that doesn't make it that it's not a thing, right? You know that, right? So biology can only explain our morality in a descriptive sense. What is? Can't explain our moral perceptions of what should be. Yeah, and so what? Now, ultimately, picking an ethical system to follow might be subjective. Or it might be that you aren't actually picking the ethical system that you want to have. It might be that actually you have no choice but to pick a particular ethical system because your brain is geared to pick that system. And you go, but I have control over my brain. No, only a little bit. How much control do we really have? I don't know. It seems like I could do something arbitrary like this. Like this has no point to it, right? So I guess I might have free will. But then again, the fact that I'm doing this might be because my brain needs to do that in order to make an example of the fact that I have free will when in fact I don't have free will. And I don't know. So, but at any rate, let's assume that you can select your ethical system. So, utilitarian, virtue ethics, uh, DCT, divine command theory. Which one am I going to pick? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Maybe you just want to pick it at random. I don't know. Maybe you're like, I like that one better than that one. Why? I don't know. So SJ's like, yeah, I'm down with DCT. Let's do that. Okay. Why? Well, because that helps me to stay a Christian, and my brain likes being a Christian, so that's what I guess I didn't really pick it, but I picked it. Okay, so that's it. That's the answer for why you picked that system. It's just that's how because you couldn't not pick it. Your brain liked it. So that's it. It's like, well, why won't you eat chocolate ice cream? Versus vanilla ice cream. It's just like, I don't know. Maybe they don't want chocolate ice cream. It's like, look, keep eating it until you like it. Like, no, like it's just I actually love chocolate ice cream, so that was a bad example. Oh, I know, banana and mayonnaise sandwiches. Why won't you try a banana and mayonnaise sandwich? They're delicious. Really, you should try them. You might like them. Just hold your nose. Okay, so obviously I don't like them. I don't even like talking about them. So that's subjective. Or is that objective? I don't know. But why? Why do I hate it? I don't know, I just do. Oh, I guess it can't be explained, so maybe I guess God made me not like this because anyways. Cross-cultural sociologists and psychologists and leadership scholars like bunch of names that I'm not going to look up, so I don't care. So a bunch of people I don't. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'll say their names. Hostef Trump. You just want to hear me say these names I can't pronounce. Trumpster, whatever. House. I know him. He's that awesome doctor on the show. That proves everything. It's lupus. Sorry. And Schwartz have found society is very inconsistent with their innate morality. Not all societies are considered cooperative or collective. Okay. Collective societies and highly individualist societies. Blah, 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 blah. So what we know we ought to do is often inconsistent with what we're actually doing. How do we know what we ought to do? We know that it's hardwired in our conscience, but it's not hardwired in our conscience because if it was, then we'd all be doing the same thing. So it's not. Certain things are hardwired into your brain, absolutely, but other things you have to learn. Now, twin studies, I think, are probably the most interesting thing in the universe. Identical twin studies, where, of course, there's not that many of them, but they're still interesting. So twins that got split up during birth, and one lives in California, one lives in New York. Very different places. Very different vibes, depending on where you live in California, depending on where you live in New York. But let's assume you live in the city of New York, the city, and you live at the beach in California. And what they saw with every single twin is that although they kind of, they had their own kind of little path, they eventually picked basically the same career, basically the same family they have, and everything else. It's like, so nurture doesn't really impact you as much as nature does. That's what the conclusion of that study is. So some things are programmed into you because doing that saves time, but other things aren't. As far as what we ought to do, we don't know the future, or we could then determine what we ought to do. We can't just freeze time and be like, okay, let me think about this. It's like, things happen and you got to make split decisions. You hear, cop shot somebody today or whatever. It's like, yeah, your life is at risk, and all you know is you've been called somewhere to deal with something, and you see somebody running towards you, and you can't see them because it's dark, but they have their hand out like this. Do you shoot them, or do you risk that they might shoot you? Maybe you shoot them. Maybe you make that call and it's the wrong call. Or maybe you make that call, it's the right call. Either way, you don't feel good because you killed somebody. There isn't, how do I know what ought to do? I don't in that moment. I just know, maybe I don't even know anything. Maybe I'm just going on instinct or training or what I hope is the best. But here's the rub. Forget about humans. What about this all-knowing, omniscient God that supposedly has all this infinite power and absolutely knows that cop is going to shoot an innocent and doesn't just stop the bullet midair? Whereas if I had the power to stop that bullet, I would, because I know that guy is innocent. Well, but what if in the future that, if I was able to travel in time and I saw in the future that innocent guy had a kid, and the kid turned out to be another Kong Noonien Soong or another Hitler or whatever, what do I do then? Well, then I kill that guy, or I stop him, but I let this guy live still. Well, what if I don't have that because I lost the time machine? So the only chance I have now, because I can't just kill the guy later because more reasons, whatever, it's very convoluted. But anyways, my only choice is I let this innocent guy die now, or I don't. What do I do? I don't know. There might not be an answer to that. You go back in time, you hold baby Hitler up, and you go, what do I do? Well, I throw him out the window is what I do. Now, does that make, maybe it's like, oh, that wasn't baby Hitler. Oops, I threw out the wrong, just start throwing babies out the window. And somebody be like, why you got to throw them out the window? Because it's more fun, damn it. It's the only time I get to feel good about, okay, I'm sorry, the whole killing baby thing. Oh, man, I blame the Bible for this. Where was I? You know what? Let's go back to chat. Okay. Her voice should be 30% more annoying. Imagine a religion that doesn't tolerate atheists. Well, that's Islam. I tried to tell her that it's not just evolution, but also culture that can explain morality. Trade your bread for my car stick. Argument from authority fallacy. Sunk costs now as well. Cop shot. Sure messed up. Maybe killing baby Hitler allows more messed up person to come about. Right. Now, if we had a time machine and we could go through everything, we saw Doctor Strange. If you watched the movie Doctor Strange, I saw a million and however many things, and only one we win out of all the different million possibilities. Okay, cool, dude. You want to sit there for a little bit longer and look at some more because you might have more than one, but you don't know. Plus, maybe if you keep doing that, that ends badly as well because you have limited time to look at time. But at any rate, if you had a time machine and you weren't constrained by weird things like in a movie, and you could see, okay, if I do this, then this happens, and this happens, and this happens, And you could then pick the results that you wanted to happen and have the perfect life, so to speak. You could genetically engineer yourself so that you didn't have the limitations that you did have. And so now the new you that's also back in time, because paradox, screw it, whatever. But now the new you that's perfect, genetically speaking, can then, make better choices than the other you would have made. And so you could create a life that's not just perfect for you, but for everybody, because you have knowledge. Now, should you do that? I don't know. You could do it, but should you? I don't know. I don't know. But if I do know, because I don't have a time machine, I don't have all the knowledge, but I do know that I have to save, or try to save, or try to help the person, or the other thing, the life form, the whatever. I have to try to help them if they're in pain, if they're suffering. And it's like, well, maybe they turn out to be it's like, rather than killing Hitler, it's better to jail Hitler. That way he can go on trial. Killing him's not going to do anything. Let's get some sort of thing out of him. Maybe he could admit that he's wrong, or apologize, or whatever. Maybe just we'll take him around in a little jail thing, like the Pope. It's just like, hey, look, we got this guy, haha. Make fun of him. I don't know, whatever we feel like will serve justice, whatever that means. Hell, maybe we don't punish him. Maybe we reform him, fix his brain so that he understands what he did. Whew, man. But that would make us really loving people, wouldn't it? It's easier to just kill the guy or to torture him because of what he did. But is that justice? Seems like a just, loving being is put in a very difficult position when it comes to being a judge, because there's something innate about our society. In fact, penitentiary started from the word penance. So to repent. So people were put in the stockade and had to say, okay, I realized what I did was wrong, which also means you have to admit that you did the thing, even if you're innocent. So there was a problem with that. But nonetheless, they stayed in that until they said they were sorry and that they were wrong. And then I guess maybe they got out. Or eventually they got out because they were sick of them being in the stocks or whatever. It's like, either way, they've been punished. They've been penitent. They've repented. And now our justice system is, we throw you in a cage, sometimes alone, and dehumanize you, and then we wonder why there's more criminals. Whereas in other countries, that's not the USA, they've changed how the jail system works and they have better results. Treating people more humane gets better results than punishing people. But the God of the Bible likes punishing people. But wouldn't it know better? Wouldn't it know that punishment doesn't work? Spanking a child has negative results, not positive. Whereas having a reward system and structure far outweighs it. We respond way better to positive enforcement than we do negative. Wouldn't God know this? Wouldn't God know that we like logic, or at least some of us do? I don't want an appeal to the stick, which is hell. And I don't want a appeal to bribe, which is heaven. Those are logical fallacies to offer me. I want just evidence. And it's so wacky anyways, because God supposedly wants a relationship with us, but doesn't just make us so that we're with God already. Like, no, you have to hang out on this mortal coil for a while. And then when you die, then you get to hang out with me. Why? Don't you want to have a relationship? Why not just have a fucking relationship then? Let's see. Yeah. Because killing is always the answer, even at a time before a crime is committed. Well, killing is a answer. I don't think it's the answer. I mean, it doesn't. See, this is the objection I have against killing is this: you don't get to know that you're wrong, and I want to win the debate. The only way I can win is if you're alive and realize that you lost. So first we have to teach you logic. Make sure you understand logic. Then I have to debate you, and you have to realize that you're wrong, admit that you're wrong, and then we kill you. Wait, no. You can make a religion of this. Okay, I'm done. No, it's been an hour. That's good enough. There's more on her page. I don't care. I'm done. I can't take it anymore. I can't. Okay, so a new video of mine will be up soon at some point. Soon being relative. So, hey, be sure to tweet this at SJ and be like, hey, your questions were answered. And watch that she ignores this video and doesn't watch a damn thing about it. Lobsters. Keep saying lobsters.